What's up, y'all? This is Igor, and this is West to East Quest channel. I'm a foreigner who travels to Russia and films Russia a lot. And I think it's a fascinating country. And actually, I'm a Russian who lived all my life in Europe, so I'm able to compare the both sides, so to speak. And in this video, we're going to be checking out, of course, the shockingly widespread video from Tucker Carlson, American journalist, and Vladimir Putin. That's the only, I think that's the only foreign interview he has done in all of this time. So guys, please make sure to push like, and this is my analysis on the video. You're free to comment down below about different sections. We're gonna start this off from the middle part from the Nord Stream, because I talked in my other video about this. Go check it out, link below. But now let's go on and let's see what we find out. This is the first time listening the second part alongside with you. All right, let's go. Who blew up the Nord Stream pipelines?
You for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, I did not blow up Nord Stream. Thank you, though.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Do you have evidence that NATO or the CIA did it?
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested. But in this case, we should not only look for someone who is interested, but also for someone who has capabilities. Because there may be many people interested, but not all of them are capable of sinking to the bottom of the Baltic Sea and carrying out this explosion. These two components should be connected. Who is interested and who is capable of doing it?
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act.
So yeah, that's interesting for sure, because, hold up. I mean, of course, I live most of my time in Europe, so I watch the European propaganda or news coverage, you might call it. And that's definitely interesting, because that's like something out of the ordinary that happened, right? The very first news coverage was that it was probably Russia, and it actually continued for some time. Then they started to think about who else could it be. But here is something interesting. Like, yeah, like we should also think like who benefits from it, right? And de facto, it's not Russia. Of course, it's not Russia. It's the main source of gas export to Russia, into Europe, Germany especially. So that's very interesting how they actually like covered it up, as if from time to time you see messages, and like recently that Sweden has finished its research, and that's it. You know, Russia has not been included. The same Russia boycott, so to speak, continues. Even though this is something that concerns Europe, this is not a Russian gas pipe. This is like a common European gas pipe. It's European, it's German, you know, it's for Germany and a lot of other countries. So that's very weird stuff that's going on, like for sure. But let's continue.
Active industrial terrorism ever. And it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States. Because
well
the
said.
United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly.
They talk about it, but it doesn't become like a popular theme ever, because this would actually point the blaming finger, so to speak, to the sides that's supposed to be good, and this is act of terrorism for sure, in its very, well, financial, economic terrorism. And what is interesting about his remarks about the Western media owned by US or led by US, and even though people like to say my audience is Western, and many like to maybe take shots at me, and they say that, hey, but your media, the Western media, it's the most free media ever, right? Yeah, but they speak in the same tone and the same wave, so to speak. When it's time to blame Russia, they blame Russia. And when there's information in the background or not. But anyways, interesting stuff so far.
Sure. Yes. But here's a question you may be able to answer. You worked in Germany, famously. The Germans clearly know that their NATO partner did this, and it damaged their economy greatly. It may never recover. Why are they being silent about it? That's very confusing to me. Why wouldn't the Germans say something about it?
This also confuses me. But today's German leadership is guided by the interests of the collective West rather than its national interests. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the logic of their action or inaction. After all, it is not only about Nord Stream 1, which was blown up, and the Nord Stream 2 was damaged. But one pipe is safe and sound, and gas can be supplied to Europe through it. But Germany does not open it. We're ready, please. There's another route through Poland called Yamal Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland packs from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds. Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent, and they close their route to Germany. Why? I don't understand. Ukraine, to which the Germans supply weapons and give money. Germany is the second sponsor of the United States in terms of financial aid to Ukraine. There are two gas routes through Ukraine. They simply closed one route, the Ukrainians. Open the second route and please get gas from Russia. They do not open it.
Of course, Russia's interest is to sell gas in this situation as well. But the point is that it's beneficial to everybody. But still, of course, it's a sales pitch.
Exorbitant prices
of course.
Which brings the level of our competitiveness and economy in general down to zero. Do you want us to give you money? Let us have the decent existence. Make money for our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from. They refuse to do so. Why? Ask them. That is what is like in their heads. Those are highly incompetent people.
There's a lot of Russian things that Putin does, which are not maybe translatable or are hidden behind the cultural wall, so to speak. So there's few of them in the first part of the video, and here's the knocking. These are Russian things you can use in the talks. I don't know, does Tucker get them or find them just amusing? But otherwise, it's I don't know how to explain, but it's a Russian thing usually, or some wordings which are not translatable or are translatable, but actually have a little bit different tone to it. But for Tucker, that's enough, of course.
Maybe the world is breaking into two hemispheres, one with cheap energy, the other without. And I want to ask you that. If we're now a multipolar world, obviously we are, can you describe the blocks of alliances? Who is in each side, do you think?
Listen, you have said that the world is breaking into two hemispheres. A human brain is divided into two hemispheres. One is responsible for one type of activities, the other one is more about creativity and so on. But it is still one and the same head. The world should be a single whole. Security should be shared rather than meant for the golden billion. That is the only scenario where the world could be stable, sustainable, and predictable. Until then, while the head is split in two parts, it is an illness, a serious adverse condition. It is a period of severe disease that the world is going through now. But I think that thanks to honest journalism, this work is akin to work of the doctors. This could
So these are type of Putin's wordings, you know, that he likes to use these, how they call analogies, I don't know. But that's what Western media likes to usually attack or like disgrace, try to disgrace him. Like, oh, it's boring. He used these comparisons, you know. But I think it's just, that's what I've noted, that these Tucker and Putin's interview was very, even though Tucker was just asking questions, sometimes more deep and stuff, but otherwise super entertaining because it's not too formal. That's what I would like to say. It's not too formal. It's very enjoyable. And of course, if you're behind the Iron Curtain on the West side, you probably maybe don't even take these things, haven't taken these things into consideration, but now you might. And, you know, just use your head.
Let's just give one example, the US dollar, which has kind of united the world in a lot of ways, maybe not to your advantage, but certainly to ours. Is that going away as the reserve currency, the universally accepted currency? How have sanctions, do you think, changed the dollar's place in the world?
All right, let's skip the dollar talk, make this too long video. All right, the second was this reestablishing communication with the US, and that's important, very important.
So you said a moment ago that the world would be a lot better if it weren't broken into competing alliances, if there was cooperation globally. One of the reasons you don't have that is because the current American administration is dead set against you. Do you think if there were a new administration after Joe Biden that you would be able to reestablish communication with the U.S.?
No, he said automatically after Biden hinting that he won't be chosen as a president second term for many reasons. But this is American internal political thing. But I personally doubt he will. Maybe even should, because of the age and because of some other things. I won't be getting into American politics on my channel. This is West to East Quest channel, guys. West to East Quest channel, where we travel from west to the east and explore Russia and all Russian things.
U.S. government, or does it not matter who the president is?
Сейчас скажу, но чтобы закончить предыдущий вопрос.
I will tell you, but let me finish the previous thought. We, together with my colleague and friend, President Xi Jinping, set a goal to reach $200 billion of mutual trade with China this year. We have exceeded this level. According to our figures, our bilateral trade with China totals already $230 billion, and the Chinese statistics says it is $240 billion. One more important thing. Our trade is well balanced, mutually complementary in high-tech, energy, scientific research and development. It is very balanced. As for BRICS, where Russia took over the presidency this year, the BRICS countries are, by and large, developing very rapidly. Look, if memory serves me right, back in 1992, the share of the G7 countries in the world economy amounted to 47%, whereas in 2022, it was down to, I think, a little over 30%.
Are times changing or not? Comment below. Will this continue? Deterioration of the West.
Than that of the G7. It has nothing to do with the events in Ukraine. This is due to the trends of global development and world economy, as I mentioned just now. And this is inevitable. This will keep happening. It is like the rise of the sun. You cannot prevent the sun from rising. You have to adapt to it.
Again, one of those things I mentioned earlier.
With the help of force, sanctions, pressure, bombings, and use of armed forces. This is about self-conceit. Your political establishment does not understand that the world is changing under objective circumstances. And in order to preserve your level, even if someone aspires, pardon me, to the level of dominance, you have to make the right decisions in a competent and timely manner. Such brutal actions, including with regard to Russia and, say, other countries, are counterproductive. This is an obvious fact. It has already become evident. You just asked me if another leader comes and changes something.
All right, now.
It is not about the leader. It is not about the personality of a particular person. I had a very good relationship with, say, Bush. I know that in the United States, he was portrayed as some kind of a country boy who does not understand much. I assure you that this is not the case. I think he made a lot of mistakes with regard to Russia, too. I told you about 2008 and the decision in Bucharest to open the NATO's doors for Ukraine and so
That's
on.
the starting point of the
During his presidency, he
of the
actually
current situation,
exercised pressure
according
on
to
the
Putin.
Europeans. But in general, on a personal human level, I had a very good relationship with him. He was no worse than any other American or Russian or European politician. I assure you, he understood what he was doing as well as others. I had such personal relationship with Trump as well. It is not about the personality of the leader. It is about the elite's mindset.
So who's actually, this is something that's Trump is using in his speeches, and this is something that a lot of people probably can understand themselves, but I believe as well, I don't think it's like a conspiracy theory or anything. The elite, the ones who support your campaigns in America, for example, they are stakeholders. And of course, we're talking about the swamp, right? And maybe that has something to do with this talk as well. But anyways, who was actually running? Because in the first part, Putin was talking about different interesting ideas for, like, example, Russian becoming a member of NATO. Bill Clinton said, interesting, why not? Maybe. He came back, no, it's not possible. Somebody whispered to his ear during that evening, so to speak. Then there was another case when they talked about the common missile defense system, etc. I think there was one another occasion as well. So every time the president said interesting, he came back and said no. When reality hits and the people in truly charge maybe have something to say. Maybe that's why many things don't change in America either, from despite even if it's a Republican or a Democrat president who is chosen. Most of the things just continues just the same. Minor issues are changed, sure. But in general, what do you think? I don't know. Well, I do know. That's my opinion.
Domination at any cost, based also on forceful actions, dominates the American society, nothing will change. It will only get worse. But if, in the end, one comes to the awareness that the world has been changing due to the objective circumstances, and that one should be able to adapt to them in time, using the advantages that the US still has today, then perhaps something may change.
But he speaks very well and peacefully, makes himself understood, I think.
Power parity. In terms of volume, it overtook the US a long time ago. The USA comes second, then India, 1.5 billion people, and then Japan, with Russia in the 5th place. Russia was the first economy in Europe last year, despite all the sanctions and restrictions. Is it normal from your point of view? Sanctions, restrictions, impossibility of payments in dollars, being cut off from SWIFT services, sanctions against our ships carrying oil, sanctions against airplanes.
And that's what I show in my videos about daily life in Russia, that things don't actually change, or maybe change for the better, you might say.
Russia. And we have become Europe's first economy during this time. The tools that US uses don't work. Well, one has to think about what to do. If this realization comes to the ruling elites, then yes, then the first person of the state will act in anticipation of what the voters and the people who make decisions at various levels expect from this person. Then maybe something will change.
But you're describing two different systems. You say that the leader acts in the interest of the voters, but you also say these decisions are not made by the leader, they're made by the ruling classes. You've run this country for so long, you've known all these American presidents. What are those power centers in the United States, do you think? Like, who actually makes the decisions?
Не знаю. Это Америка сложная страна, такая очень, с одной стороны, консервативная.
I don't know. America is a complex country, conservative on one hand, rapidly changing on the other. It's not easy for us to sort it all out. Who makes decisions in the elections? Is it possible to understand this when each state has its own legislation? Each state regulates itself? Someone can be excluded from elections at the state level. It is a two-stage electoral system. It is very difficult for us to understand it. Certainly, there are two parties that are dominant, the Republicans and the Democrats. And within this party system, the centers that make decisions, that prepare decisions. Then, look, why, in my opinion, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, such an erroneous, crude, completely unjustified policy of pressure was pursued against Russia? After all, this is a policy of pressure.
This is something I think you should actually think about as well, because I know it. I've known about this pressure against Russia, even though everybody says up until even now that everything happens naturally, but at the same time, they are squeezing Russia into a corner, I think so, with different decisions, and especially with influencing Russian neighbors and allies even. So, I get what he's saying, but do you get? If not, this might be like a news bomb for you.
Of a missile defense system. These are all elements of pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Then dragging Ukraine into NATO is all about pressure, pressure, pressure. Why? I think, among other things, because excessive production capacities were created. During the confrontation with the Soviet Union, there were many centers created and specialists on the Soviet Union who could not do anything else. They convinced the political leadership that it is necessary to continue chiseling Russia, to try to break it up, to create on this territory several quasi-state entities, and to subdue them.
Yep, and I can understand it, but there's a lot of I don't know. I think the media is always, and of course the pro-American politicians are always saying that there's no such thing, and nobody wants to break anything. But at the same time, they're doing exactly the opposite. So it's but Russia knows what's happening. So despite whether you believe it or not, so that's the reason why we're at this point, like globally. That's my opinion.
Them in a divided form to use their combined potential for the future struggle with China. This is a mistake, including the excessive potential of those who worked for the confrontation with the Soviet Union. It is necessary to get rid of this. There should be new, fresh forces, people who look into the future and understand what is happening in the world. Look at how Indonesia is developing. 600 million people. Where can we get away from that? Nowhere. We just have to assume that Indonesia will enter, it is already in, the club of the world's leading economies, no matter who likes it or dislikes it. Yes, we understand and are aware that in the United States, despite all the economic problems, the situation is still normal, with the economy growing decently. The GDP is growing by 2.5%, if I'm not mistaken. But if we want to ensure the future, then we need to change our approach to what is changing. As I already said, the world would nevertheless change, regardless of how the developments in Ukraine end. The world is changing. In the United States themselves, experts are writing that the United States are nonetheless gradually changing their position in the world. It is your experts who write that. I just read them. The only question is how this would happen, painfully and quickly, or gently and gradually.
Well,
And this is written by people who are not anti-American. They simply follow global development trends. That's it.
what you guys think about this? It's not his opinion. He reads the actually American analysts. If you want to rock the foreign agent cap like me, go to Igor's Russian shop and get yourself one, or you can also have a foreign agent hoodies, t-shirts, pullovers. Same thing with Igor, other merch, Igor and Russian merch, Russian emblems. Go check it out, and you can actually, if you like what you see or want to differentiate yourself, that's a good place to start, and support, of course, the channel, guys. Go check out Igor's Russian store. Not restricted to any sanctions yet. Let's go to another point. So this is about the reestablishing the communication with the U.S. He was careful. He wasn't like going all out, like, "Hey, please let us talk with you guys." None of that. He's quite realist in that case. That it will continue the same, and possibly there's maybe more doors open in the future. Just maybe. Anyway, how powerful is Zelensky? Let's listen to that. I haven't heard that video before, so let's check it out.
Do you think Zelensky has the freedom to negotiate a settlement to this conflict?
I don't know the details. Of course, it's difficult for me to judge. But I believe he has, in any case, he used to have. His father fought against the fascists, Nazis, during World War II. I once talked to him about this. I said, "Volodya, what are you doing? Why are you supporting neo-Nazis in Ukraine today, while your father fought against fascism? He was a frontline soldier." I will not tell you what he answered. This is a separate topic, and I think it's incorrect for me to do so. But as to the freedom of choice, why not? He came to power on the expectations of Ukrainian people that he would lead Ukraine to peace. He talked about this. It was thanks to this that he won the elections overwhelmingly. But then, when he came to power, in my opinion, he realized two things. Firstly, it is better not to clash with neo-Nazis and nationalists because they are aggressive and very active. You can expect anything from them. And secondly, the US-led West supports them and will always support those who antagonize with Russia. It is beneficial and safe. So he took the relevant position despite promising his people to end the war in Ukraine.
That's a strong point, and what I read in the West, local media here, it's very common to downplay these neo-fascist Bandera powers and Banderovцы. And you've seen those red, blue flags and stuff, and so it's very interesting point of view. And that's I totally agree. That's how you're able to suck out a lot of money from the West, from America, by complying with anti-Russian movements and and stands, because, and that's very interesting. It seems to be happening for decades.
He deceived his voters.
But do you think at this point, as of February 2024, he has the latitude, the freedom to speak with you or your government directly about putting an end to this, which clearly isn't helping his country or the world? Can he do that, do you think?
Ну, а почему нет? Он же
Why not? He considers himself head of state.
He considers himself.
Although
Interesting.
we believe in Russia that the coup d'etat is the primary source of power for everything that happened after 2014. And in this sense, even today, government is flawed. But he considers himself the president, and he is recognized by the United States, all of Europe, and practically the rest of the world in such a capacity. Why not? He can. We negotiated with Ukraine in Istanbul. We agreed. He was aware of this. Moreover, the negotiation group leader, Mr. Arakamiya is his last name, I believe still heads the faction of the ruling party, the party of the president in the Rada. He still heads the presidential faction in the Rada, the country's parliament. He still sits there. He even put his preliminary signature on the document I am telling you about. But then he publicly stated to the whole world, we were ready to sign this document, but Mr. Johnson, then the Prime Minister of Great Britain, came and dissuaded us from doing this, saying it was better to fight Russia. They would give everything needed.
It's better I'll be quiet now.
And we agreed with this proposal. Look, his statement has been published. He said it publicly. Can they return to this or not? The question is, do they want it or not? Further on, President of Ukraine issued a decree prohibiting negotiations with us. Let him cancel that decree, and that's it. We have never refused
I don't know, do they want to have a discussion, but I think in general discussion should be a good thing in general. So to any country in any situation. So it's he's cornered in that way, I think, to talk, to not be able to even to, I know, I've heard about this decree. So if it's illegal to negotiate with Russia, so that prohibits him from discussing with Russia, meaning quite a one-way ride, no matter what the situation is, right? And if he would erase it, or that would be actually politically kind of dangerous, or it would give us such a strong signal that would be exploited in the wrong way internally, I would say.
negotiations, indeed. We hear all the time, is Russia ready? Yes, we have not refused. It was them who publicly refused. Well, let him cancel his decree and enter into negotiations. We have never refused. And the fact that they obeyed the demand or persuasion of Mr. Johnson, the former...
Who's no longer anywhere.
Ridiculous and very sad to me. Because, as Mr. Arakamiya put it, we could have stopped those hostilities with war a year and a half ago already. But the British persuaded us and we refused this. Where is Mr. Johnson now? And the war continues.
Exactly.
That's a good question. Where do you think he is and why did he do that?
Hell knows. I don't understand.
Да хрен его знает. Где Джонсон? Да хрен его знает. Who the heck knows? That kind of, yeah, but it's in Russian more funny.
Understand it myself.
Что Россию можно победить на поле.
There was a general starting point. For some reason, everyone had the illusion that Russia could be defeated on the battlefield.
От чистого сердца, но
Because of arrogance, because of a pure heart, but not because of a great mind.
You've described the connection between Russia and Ukraine. You've described Russia itself a couple of times as orthodox. That's central to your understanding of Russia. You've said you're orthodox. What does that mean for you? You're a Christian leader.
I'm interested to hear the answer, but in general, for me, knowing the countries Orthodox, let's say Serbia, Greece, of course, partially or fully Eastern European countries, I feel like huge proudness and respect for the country very often, or at minimum, I feel the, a bond, definitely.
by your own
Me as an Orthodox, I
What effect
mean.
does that have on you?
You know, as I already mentioned, in 988, Prince Vladimir himself was baptized following the example of his grandmother, Princess Olga. And then he baptized his squad. And then, gradually, over the course of several years, he baptized all the Rus. It was a lengthy process, from pagans to Christians. It took many years. But in the end, this orthodoxy, Eastern Christianity, deeply rooted itself in the consciousness of the Russian people. When Russia expanded and absorbed other nations who profess Islam, Buddhism, and Judaism, Russia has always been very loyal to those people who profess other religions. This is her strength. This is absolutely clear.
That is true. Russia is very orthodox, but there's a huge, big minority which is totally respected. The Muslim minority in St. Petersburg. There's quite a few Muslim mosques. The main mosque of St. Petersburg is amazing, and there's I think during the special times there was last year was 1 million people around the area just worshiping. So. Definitely a huge minority Muslim people live all behave well amongst themselves. This is probably something you might not know.
Fact is that the main postulates, main values are very similar, not to say the same, in all world religions I've just mentioned, and which are the traditional religions of the Russian Federation, Russia. By the way, Russian authorities were always very careful about the culture and religion of those people who came into the Russian Empire. This, in my opinion, forms the basis of both security and stability of the Russian statehood. All the peoples inhabiting Russia basically consider it their motherhood. If, say, people move over to you or to Europe from Latin America, an even clearer and more understandable example, people come, but yet they have come to you or to European countries from their historical homeland. And people who profess different religions in Russia consider Russia their motherland. They have no other motherland.
All right, I think we want more interesting points for this video, even though I find the answer fine.
So when does the AI empire start, do you think?
You're asking increasingly more complicated questions. To answer them, you need to be an expert in big numbers, big data, and AI. Mankind is currently facing many threats due to the genetic researches.
Is the Skynet coming? According to my glasses, it is already here.
Engineer, athlete, scientist, military man. There are reports that Elon Musk had already had a chip implanted in the human brain in the USA.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think there's no stopping Elon Musk. He will do as he sees fit. Nevertheless,
There's no stopping him.
some common ground with him. Search for ways to persuade him. I think he's a smart person. I truly believe he is. So you need to reach an agreement with him because this...
Note Musk's company gave some satellite for Ukraine and then stopped. I think I haven't heard anything that he returned them to Ukraine, but so it's interesting that they talk about Musk over here.
Due to the newest development in genetics or in AI. One can make an approximate prediction of what will happen.
Угрозу своему существованию от ядерного оружия, все начали
обладатель ядерного
Once mankind felt an existential threat coming from nuclear weapons, all nuclear nations began to come to terms with one another since they realized the negligent use of nuclear weaponry could drive humanity to extinction.
искусственного интеллекта, либо генетики, либо еще каких-то современных направлений, остановить которые
It
невозможно.
is impossible to stop research in genetics or AI today, just as it was impossible to stop the use of gunpowder back in the day.
Эти исследования все равно будут. Но когда человечество почувствует угрозу для себя,
But as soon as we realize that the threat comes from unbridled and uncontrolled development of AI, or genetics, or any other field, the time will come to reach an international agreement on how to regulate these things.
Interesting. But
I appreciate all the time you've given us. I'm just going to ask you one last
All right.
question, and that's
Here we go.
about someone who's very famous in the United States, probably not here, Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal.
To realize that it is difficult to achieve,
sorry.
if possible at all. In my opinion,
I appreciate all the time you've given us. I'm just going to ask you one last question, and that's about someone who's very famous in the United States, probably not here, Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter. He's 32, and he's been in prison for almost a year. This is a huge story in the United States, and I just want to ask you directly, without getting into the details of it or your version of what happened, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing to release him to us and we'll bring him back to the United States.
Whoa. He's searching for sensation now.
мы столько сделали жестов доброй воли, что, мне кажется, мы исчерпали все линии.
we have done so many gestures of goodwill out of decency that I think we have run out of them.
Ни разу не ответил. Но
We have never seen anyone reciprocate to us in a similar manner.
что мы
However, in theory, we can say that we do not rule out that we can do that
исключаем того, что мы можем это
if our partners take reciprocal steps.
встречном движении со стороны наших
When I talk about the partners, I first of all refer to special services.
представителей специальных служб.
Special services are in contact with one another. They are talking about the matter in question.
На то, чтобы не решить это.
There is no taboo to settle this
Мы
issue.
готовы ее решать.
We are willing to solve it.
Есть определенные условия, которые
But there are certain terms being discussed via special services
по
channels.
партнерским каналам между спецслужбами.
I believe an agreement can be reached.
It's a Telegram channel.
Typically, I mean, this stuff has happened for obviously centuries.
I'm joking.
One country catches another spy with
So, yeah.
trades it for
No,
another country.
and
it's not
no deed
what makes me
for
that's obviously not a spy.
what he was planning.
And maybe he was breaking your law in some way, but he's not a super spy, and everybody knows that. And he's being held hostage in exchange, which is true. With respect, it's true, and everyone knows it's true. So maybe he's in a different category. Maybe it's not fair to ask for somebody else in exchange for letting him out. Maybe it degrades Russia to do that.
Вы знаете, можно как угодно говорить.
He still pressures Putin to give him out, give a return, Gershkovich.
But there are certain things provided by law. If person gets secret information and does that in conspiratorial manner, then this is qualified as espionage. And that is exactly what he was doing. He was receiving classified, confidential information, and he did it covertly. Maybe he did that out of carelessness. Or
I wonder what's that all about, actually.
Considering the
I'm
sheer
interested.
fact, this is qualified as espionage. The fact has been proven, as he was caught red-handed when he was receiving this information. If it had been some far-fetched excuse, some fabrication, something not proven, it would have been a different story then. But he was caught red-handed when he was secretly getting confidential information. What is it then?
But are you suggesting that he was working for the U.S. government or NATO, or he was just a reporter who was given material he wasn't supposed to have? Those seem like very different things.
Я не знаю, на кого он работал. Но повторю еще.
I don't know who he was working for. But I would like to reiterate that getting classified information in secret
структур
is called espionage, and he was working for the US Special Services, some other agencies.
There you go.
I don't think he was working for Monaco, as Monaco is hardly interested in getting that information. It is up to
What you guys think? What was the information? The topic? What was it about?
There are people who, in our view, are not connected with special services. Let me tell you a story about a person serving a sentence in an...
All right, guys. This has been the second part. I'm gonna stop there now because it's the end, the very end of the video. So Tucker said after the interview that Putin seemed to be smart, and he noticed that he spoke very confidently, and that he's not a person that people have been like pressuring or like not arguing, but the other word, I don't know what it is. Now, but he liked the experience, and it was really, of course, this has been all over the world. What you guys think? Did you learn anything new about it? What was your, for many Russians, for me as well, they didn't give any new information, but it actually clarified, and I understand this effect. All right, guys, I hope you liked my analysis, my reaction video to this, I don't know, is it a world changing? It might be, I don't know. It depends on America, I think, because the target group for this interview is probably Americans, I think. I'm Igor, and this channel is West to East Quest. Push like, subscribe to the channel. I make videos from Europe, traveling to Russia, experiencing Russia, and showing you as a Russia-speaking person, foreigner in Russia though. I show you the reality. I show you different locations all around St. Petersburg, all the way from the border crossing, all the way to Moscow and forward. Join me and see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.